Welcome to the Sarah Scoop Show. It's time to get the scoop with Sarah.
Hey everybody, my name is Chris McNally and I currently play Lucas on the show When Calls the Heart. I started a little vegetable garden on the balcony and it's going well. We've got some radishes coming up and lettuce and kale and snap peas. It's been fun. There was a significant amount of supplies that were sold out online right when we started that you couldn't get at Home Depot. I think some of it's still sold out, different raised beds and stuff that we were looking at. So yeah, I think there's just a huge amount of people at once that decided, I've got nothing to do, I'm gonna start gardening, and then everything got bought up. I try and keep busy. If I don't have a project, then I tend to go a little crazy in it. And so I need to have something on my mind. So I just kind of move from project to project. But then on a more broader scale, I love camping. So I like to take the time in between projects to get out into the mountains and kind of just be alone and calm down and chill out there. Yeah, I'm in Vancouver right now. I came back up here for COVID reasons, but in LA, so far my favorite place is Big Bear. I love it. I think because I grew up in the Pacific Northwest, I really love trees and greenery. So Big Bear is kind of a way to find that within California, because the Joshua Tree and scenes like that, I think they're stunning, but they don't quite feel necessarily homey to me. All the dust and the sun and the rock. So I don't think I relax as much until I'm in some trees. Sure. I have two dogs. We adopted them. It'll be 2 years in September. And actually, there'll be two this summer. The girl's name is Charlie and the boy's Bowie. And they are hilarious. And they're from the same litter. They're brother and sister, but they're like totally opposite personality-wise. I'll show you. Oh, they're both going to come. Hi, Charlie. Come say hi. This is Bowie. Come here, buddy. I got into acting. I was little. I think I watched Space Jam, and I was like, I want to do that. I want to do that for work. And my parents were very, very open to that, so they helped find an agent for me when I was a kid, and then would start going out on commercial auditions and stuff like that. And I booked a few small speaking parts on some local TV shows, but I was awful, and I don't know why they hired me. It's just pure luck, because I had such a warped idea of what it was. I thought you just kind of act. And then after high school, I started studying, and then I realized, oh, I'm awful at this. This is going to take a lot of practice and a lot of work. And then I studied for about 10 years, and still always learning. I still want to improve significantly from where I am now. But yeah, that's sort of a basic rundown of how I started. Certain aspect about acting, yeah, there's a lot. First of all, it's really fun. I love how social it is when, in terms of the relationships at work and on set, you're always working with different people. What I really love about acting as a career is that it's always changing. It's always different. You're always playing different characters. You're in different environments. You're meeting new people. So to me, it never really gets boring, because it's always constantly changing. And you also get to explore all these different characters and different ideas, and you're constantly researching and learning about history and backstory. What the person you're playing is, that leads to all this research. And so I find that you're in this bubble of constantly discovering new things. And that's something I really like. Shooting on location is one of my favorite things, because it feels like almost like not really a vacation because you're working, but when everybody is in a remote location together, I feel like you bond a lot more with the crew and your cast, because you're in this little pod in this unit, as opposed to if you're shooting in the city, everyone goes back home and then you show up work the next day. But when you're isolated on weekends or time off, I just feel like you build that sense of community a lot more, and it feels like this special little trip that you've made in this different part of the country or world or whatever, and it's special. I think the coolest place that I have filmed, there's two. Okay, I have two stories about this. The first is there's a town. Well, it's British Columbia's capital, actually, Victoria on Vancouver Island. It's a really beautiful, quaint, charming city, and smaller than I'm used to, but it has sort of a romance about it that is just really, really fun. And being over there with your crew and enjoying dinners out and kind of bonding with each other, and in with the architecture is really pretty. It's just like it's a special place. It was very uplifting and really a lot of fun. So Victoria is kind of special to me for that, filming there. And then I also had an awesome time filming in Kelowna, which is about 4 hours, 4.5 east of Vancouver. And we were at a ski resort, and we were shooting a winter Christmas. It wasn't Christmas, but a winter Hallmark movie, and it had to do with a ski lodge. And so we got to stay on the mountain in this lodge. The lines between what we were working on and reality were kind of blurring because, you know, in the story we would shoot in the cafe that we would actually go to in real life on our time off. So, and we got to, like, we would know the managers and everything, and we felt like we really knew the space, but then in our lives, but then we would go there and in the show we're working there, or not necessarily working there, but I am trailing off in a weird tangent rabbit hole, but I liked shooting on the mountain. It was fun. Involved with Hallmark through, I think the first job I did was Hearts of Christmas. It was called Hearts of Christmas, and I had only, I think I was there 1 or 2 days working. It was I'm just in a couple scenes. It was a really small part. And then a little later, I booked a slightly larger job on a gourmet detective one that was sort of like I guess a kind of a guest star spot or something. And then after that, it just kind of snowballed. Like I did Rocky Mountain Christmas, and that was a supporting character as well. And then I got offered the lead on The Sweetest Heart, which totally took me by surprise, because that whole thing, I think that journey kind of happened within maybe 18 months, something like that. But more specifically, the quicker transition was from Gourmet Detective to then a couple months later doing the Rock Mountain Christmas, and then a month later doing The Sweetest Heart. And I felt like I remember my agent called me, she said, "Hey, so Hallmark's got an offer for you. They want you to do the lead in this movie." And I was like, "I think you're calling the wrong client. I don't think they even know who I am." And they're like, no, I want you for the lead. I'm like, I struggled to even get an audition for Hallmark projects, say a year to 2 years prior to that. So it was a weird thing where I all of a sudden it happened very quickly, and I went from not being able to even read for these projects to being offered to play the lead in them. So it kind of took me by surprise, but it's been a really great experience, and I'm very thankful for Hallmark because they've really helped me with my career. Very happy to be working with Hallmark, and I think it's become an important milestone for me in my career, and I'd love to continue working with them. It was definitely a goal to be working, and so when I was living in Vancouver before, I wanted, there was a lot of Hallmark that shot here, so it was definitely a goal to get a job and start working with the company. I did not expect to be cast as any leads for their shows, because they typically bring those actors up from the States, and it's just wasn't on my radar as a Vancouver actor. I was just hoping to get enough credits to then be able to apply for a work visa, move to the States, and then build my career from there. And so that's happened now, which is awesome. And I'm very thankful for Hallmark for allowing that to happen. But I also want to do, I've always really loved indie films and sort of like darker, more dramatic storylines. And so at first I thought it was sort of ironic that I was being cast as in Hallmark, because everything that I really enjoyed working on in my own studies was all very sort of dark and heavy. And then Hallmark is very light and uplifting, which is a beautiful thing. And it's been so much fun working on it. I do still want to fulfill that other desire of mine. So I would love to move in that direction, not necessarily moving away from Hallmark, but I just love to in addition to work on some other things as well. That is a current goal of mine, and we'll see what happens after coronavirus and where we go from here. I don't know. Casting process for What Calls the Heart was I had moved to LA, and I have representation there who called me and said, hey, there's that Canadian show One Calls the Heart. It's not Canadian show, but shot in Canada. They were casting two new guys, as I'm sure you know, Lucas and Nathan. So I actually auditioned for Lucas in LA. I went in the room and I did a very mediocre audition, I would say. Like I left going, man, I let that one slip away. I did not do what I wanted to do. And I kicked myself a bit for that for a few days. And then my Canadian manager called and said, Canadian casting would love you to tape for Nathan and send a tape up to Canada. So I said, okay. And it was kind of a second chance to read for this show because I felt like I messed up my first one. So I sent a tape that I was very happy with for Nathan. I don't think I heard anything for a while. And then I got a call saying, you're pinned for the Nathan character. And they would like you to do a chemistry read with Aaron in LA and kind of see where things go. So I went for this chemistry read and had a great time. Aaron was lovely. Everybody it was a very, very warm environment. And I also personally got to kind of do the type of read that I had messed up in my other in-person audition for the show. So it went great. I felt awesome about it. I did everything I wanted to do. It was a great time. And then right before I left, they said, hold on, do you have a minute? Do you mind reading? Can we give you the sides for the other character, Lucas? Do you mind taking them away and then coming back, reading with Aaron again? And I said, yeah, sure. I mean, I already knew them because I'd done it a few weeks prior, but they gave me a few minutes to kind of refresh. And then I went in and had an awesome time playing Lucas. And then I got a call saying, well, they want you to play Lucas. So it was sort of this weird kind of back and forth situation, but ended up with Lucas Bouchard, which I'm very happy with. I think he's such a fun character. You know, like you said, there hasn't necessarily been a character quite like that on the show. And he's been just a joy to play. It's definitely more fun for me to play the more mysterious kind of, you have more things to play with. If you're hiding a secret and adding those layers, it's just, it's a better time. Yeah, and actually I enjoyed, candidly, although people are gonna see this, I enjoyed Lucas's storyline when he first came in more than the last season we did. They're both great. I don't have bad things to say about them, but when Lucas first came in, you weren't sure about him because he seemed to be hiding things. He seemed a little bit shady. And so from my perspective, that was more fun to play with because there were different nuances. Things could be misinterpreted. He had sort of this other agenda going on. And then last season, it was very much, revealed that Lucas actually had good intentions. He's a good guy. And then they took away my mystery. And I want my mystery back. I'm hoping that something can come up in this next season that sort of goes back that direction. Across the board, we have an awesome group of people on One Calls the Heart. So my favorite experience, just all in all, was after the Hearties family reunion. The cast of One Calls the Heart and some of the cast of When Hope Calls came over to my apartment, and we had just an awesome celebratory evening. And we were all coming off this high of engaging with these fans that traveled so far to come see us and who care so much about the show. And that was very special in itself. So after that, coming in and kind of celebrating that and just being with each other all as a group was my favorite moment of last season. That was definitely an across the board highlight. In terms of story though, and I would say I really enjoyed the dinner scene with Elizabeth, when Lucas and Elizabeth traveled to Union City. And it was actually at the judge's office. They had converted that. The art department is really great at sort of disguising and hiding interiors or something else. So we walked into what was the judge's office and we're like, whoa, that looks like an amazing restaurant now. And that was just a really great scene because there was a lot of subtext and nuance to it in terms of these two characters not being on a date, but having this intimate connection and not wanting to acknowledge the connection, but still sort of convey their feelings. So it was just a really great scene. I love the writing of that, and Aaron and I had a fantastic time. I think that scene actually went through some rewrites that were inspired or spearheaded by Aaron. I think that I wish I could remember how it was originally written, and I don't. But I know that Aaron had a lot of influence. She said, "Hey, this is a big scene. We have to get this right." And so her and I went back and forth with it, and then we were talking to the showrunner, and he was open to her ideas and our input, and so it sort of evolved. Man, I really wish I could remember what it was, but I don't. But anyway, it evolved from something and morphed into the scene that you saw, largely to do with Aaron, which is awesome. And so that was fun in itself because we felt creatively involved and hands-on with how that scene went. And it also was the last scene that we shot in season 7 that concluded filming. So that was pretty cool as well. I brought a bottle of champagne, and so we popped a bottle of actual champagne after we finished drinking our ginger ale, fake champagne in that scene. Yeah, it was a nice way. It was a nice way to go out. And I struggled with it. I always come to work prepared, and I had come to work prepared, but for some reason I was having a mental block, and I could not get my dialogue out. I kept messing it up. I think I messed it up like 7 or 8 times, and I was feeling the heat and feeling the pressure because everybody just wanted to finish shooting because it was the last one. We were going to be done. Everyone wanted to celebrate, and I couldn't get the words out of my mouth. I was like, why is this happening to me on the last day? It hasn't happened all season. And when everybody wants to go home and celebrate, I'm holding them here for an extra half hour because I can't speak. Anyways, it was fun. I do have some hopes. There are ideas that I would love to happen, and I put forward to our new showrunner, and I don't know if Hallmark will bite. And so if they do end up taking some of those ideas, I don't want to mention them just because I don't want to give anything away. But I will say that in a more broad sense, I hope that Lucas can kind of get himself into some trouble in this next season, because I feel like we don't necessarily know too much about him in terms of his him facing adversity. I would like to see him struggle and try and overcome some obstacles so you can kind of get to know him through that, rather than what we've seen so far, which is that he's a good guy, he's nice, but I feel like you don't necessarily know who people are until they're really pushed into a corner, or they have to face some hard challenges, and you see how they overcome those challenges. So I hope that this next season can bring something in that realm. Yeah, it was nerve-wracking joining a cast that had been together for 5 years. Just feeling like the new kid at school. Like you just moved in, everybody had already established friendships, and you were on the outside. But Aaron and Lori were very, very cognizant of that, and really kind of facilitated us becoming engaged with everybody and made sure that we felt very much at ease, that we were comfortable. Everyone was super friendly. So I definitely had some stress and anxiety going into it, but after that first day and meeting everybody and seeing how kind everybody was, that sort of washed away immediately. And then Kevin also coming in a couple weeks after. I think I was there a couple weeks before, just because Lucas came in a few episodes before. But when he came as well, the two of us were like now the two new people. So we really bonded on that, and have become great friends. And so yeah, thought it was going to be tough. Thought it might be challenging, but it was a total breeze. And it's just, like I said before, a really lovely group of people to work with. You never know. I think the fans are so loyal on What Calls the Heart, which is why it's awesome. it's also a bit of a double-edged sword when they care so much about Jack, and now we have these two new characters coming in. So Kevin and I were prepared for some heat for people, rightfully being defensive of the character that they'd gotten to know and love for 5 years. I think maybe Kevin had that a little worse than, or well, Nathan, I should say, more than Lucas, just because he's a Mountie. But turns out the fans are all quite nice as well, and we're very. I feel like they were trepidatious for the first season, and then they sort of decided, no, I think in general we're fans of these guys. They bring some good stuff to the show, so that was reassuring. That's a good question. I like the way you prefaced that. I think I would be Team Lucas. It is tough. They both have great characteristics. I just think that personally, I enjoy a little bit of more of a sense of adventure, and I think that I see that in Lucas. Whereas Nathan is very stable, very safe, and I'm looking for a little bit more fun and spontaneity. So that's probably why I would go for Team Lucas. But I mean, like, Nathan's an awesome guy, and he takes great care of Allie. He's got a good heart and a good head on his shoulders, so you can't go wrong with Nathan. I think Alfonso, the showrunner, who kind of created this triangle, did a great job. He told me when we started that his goal was he says, if I can evenly split the Hearties down the middle, 50-50 for Nathan and Lucas at the end of the season, then I've done my job. And I think he's done. Cavan is a total clown. He's such a prankster, and he's a lot of fun to be around. He's always making everybody laugh. And there was a scene, remember where the windstorm, and he fell, he hit his head, and then when Pascal and Eva come to find them, first of all, it was frigid that morning. It was so cold, and Cavan was lying under a blanket with numerous hot water bottles tucked in against his belly, and he's just sitting there like this, and we're like, you can see our breath, and he just looking at us, he goes, guys, I am so warm right now. and then he put cucumbers on his eyes, so when Pascal came running over and like, oh, Lee, and then she's like, what is happening right now? We got that reaction on camera, which was great. So yeah, Kevin's a good prankster and supplies a lot of laughs. Was it this last season? Oil? That was his last season, right? When Ben Rosenbaum, when his character discovers the oil and he comes running into the saloon, and the poor guy was just covered in this sticky mess for what seemed like hours. And is that bad to say that was a highlight for me, seeing him covered in sticky goo for hours? That's kind of mean. He's such a committed actor, and he was giving it 110%, coming, we found oil, we did it. And it's sort of, I don't know if when you're watching it, you see him run in and he's super excited, and nothing seems strange or odd. But when you're working on the other side, at the time, that does feel weird, because everybody is standing there quiet, and then you have to run in and make all this noise, and you're so full of energy, but no one else is. And it really is a difficult thing to do, because it makes you feel so out of place and uncomfortable. At least me. I mean, everybody's different. Maybe some people are cool with it, but that's, it's one of those scenes where you go like, I'm going to really have to amp this up to a level way past my comfort zone. And Ben just every single time just brought it. And then it looks great on your side, but it's when you're on the other side of the camera and you're actually filming it, some scenes feel a little awkward and then come out great when you watch it on the TV. But so I commend him for that, and that stuck in my mind. I might be thinking about it more because I'm very shy, and so scenes where I have to, when I'm playing characters who are more extroverted and open and big, can be more of a personal struggle. But I wonder if I'm trying to think of one more fun. Oh my God, Pascal gets the giggles so badly. Not often, but when the one time in particular I'm thinking of was the scene. It was the Bachelor and Bachelorette party scene, and I think actually some of this was trimmed out. But there was a game. I don't think it made it into the final cut, but there was a game that was being played on the women's side, and everybody Pascal had the giggles so badly, and her laugh is so incredibly infectious that it became extremely difficult to keep a straight face for anybody for a significant amount of time. Yeah, it's hard because you know time is money and you got to go and when everybody can't keep it together, it's like you know that you have to reel it in and that it's a job, but at the same time like the giggles is a tough thing to suppress. And again, Pascal's laugh is, I think you have to be a psychopath not to laugh when she's laughing. And that the cookie show, that reminds me that it was a great cast bonding experience, because we, again, going back to if you're working on something in on location somewhere and you're all a group, as opposed to here where we film and then we go back to our houses when we're done. And yeah, we do try to get together when we can, but the cookie matchup, we had all been put up in Los Angeles at the same hotel. And so I think we shot for, what was it, 5 days or something, 4 or 5 days. And every day after work, we would all we'd get in the bus and we'd all go back and shuttle back to the hotel together, and we'd have dinner, wine, and share stories and experiences of the day. And I think we were there even a few days before the cookie show altogether as well, because Hallmark had a press event that we were in town for. So that was like a week of being able to hang out and really bond and get to know one another. And yeah, that was a great time. Good people. The people make or break the job. You know, you hear horror stories about people who it's so tough to get a job in this business, and then they finally do, and then it's unfortunately a toxic environment, and then people are miserable. But this is a lucky show where there's relatively no toxicity. Everyone's just very positive. If I wasn't acting, I think I would want to be in design of some sort. I really like interior design, and my parents are interior designers. And it just, if I'm ever feeling stressed out for some reason, focusing on a space and what I would do visually to that space somehow brings me calm and peace. And yeah, I love it. It brings me joy. I tend to design places in my head. Okay, so if you look at, I feel like a lot of really talented actors are kind of eccentric people. And I remember going to a friend's house and saying, I was talking to him, I was like, yeah, I was probably just having an insecure day, and I was like, I don't think I can be a really good actor. I'm not eccentric or weird enough. Like I feel like I'm too bland. I'm normal. And he looked at me and he's like, you think you're normal? I was like, yeah, I think I'm pretty normal. He's like, you are so weird, man. I'm like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? And he goes, the first time you came over here, you're like slowly twiddling your thumbs and like walked up to my wall and like squinted at it and then like softly touched it and looked around and then kind of like floated over to another part of the apartment. And I asked you, like, what are you doing? You're like, oh, I was just thinking you could really like do a cool sort of like clock piece, like a big, like almost like like not a statue, but like cut out blocks. Like you can make an entire clock. Yeah, I think it should look really good here with the brick and this. And anyway, so I kind of go into this mode of drawing up spaces. I watch HGTV all the time. I haven't lately, but so I had a paper route when I was younger, when I was maybe 12 or something like that, 10, 11, I don't know, younger. And I had to stuff the flyers, and that would take a while, and I'd turn on HGTV and I'd stuff the flyers and watch film design shows. Right now would be if we lived in a world where Game of Thrones hadn't been made yet and I got to be on Game of Thrones. That would be my dream role. I have a total man crush on Jon Snow. I want to be Jon Snow. Ever since I was a kid, I feel like even when it came down to Lego, for instance, my favorite Lego sort of world, so how they have all these different ones, was the castles. I love castles and dragons and magic and knights, and just fascinated with that sort of fantasy world. And so Game of Thrones for me, when I watched it, it's like, oh my god, I would pay you to work on this. Like, I don't even have to pay me. I'll give you money to let me have a huge broadsword and be trudging through the snow and with the dragon. And yeah, I'll pitch it to Hallmark. I'll say I want to do a Hallmark story that takes place in 800 years ago with dragons and swords. There are actors that I would love to work with that I'd also be scared shitless to work with. Can I say shitless on this show? Like Ben Mendelsohn, for instance, is just so inspiring to me. So I would love to work with him, but I think I also would be incapable of working with him because the whole time I'd just be watching him going like, oh my God, it's Ben Mendelsohn. He's talking to me right now. And then I'd fuck everything up. Oh, swear again, sorry. So Ben Mendelsohn is one. Sean Penn's always inspired me. I find him fascinating. Mystic River really sort of struck a chord with me. So watching his performance in Mystic River, that like I said before, I always knew that I wanted to act since I was a little kid, but there's been certain instances that have sort of reinforced that. And Mystic River was one of those. I watched that and I was like, oh my God, like what that man is doing right now is to me so incredible. I hope someday that I could do something like that. Mark Rylance is another guy who is more of a huge theater actor. Has done started to do some big projects in Hollywood, but I'd say more well known in the theater scene. But I saw him do Jerusalem, which he won a Tony for. And that was another experience like the Mystic River one that just absolutely blew my mind with how this man could capture an entire audience to the point like you could hear a pin drop in that theater. It was electric. The air was palpable, like it was, and the whole audience was a collective being. We focused, zeroed in with every fucking molecule in your body, watching this man and hanging on every breath that he took. It was insane. He was amazing. So yeah, I'd say those are my top three. But again, I'd be so petrified to work with any of them. I would probably be fired about 5 minutes in. Yeah, I love theater. I've done some plays here in Vancouver. Never anything with an audience bigger than 85 people, something like that. It's always been small, kind of black box theater. But when I was doing I trained at a theater school here. It was a private theater school, so it's not like you do a 2, 3, 4 year program and they come out with a degree. You take 3-month sessions at a time that go year round, and you focus on one scene for that, and then at the end you put it up. You invite people into the theater and do a little live performance of these scenes. But doing that for 6 years gave me a great, a vast sort of foundation and knowledge of plays and theater, and that's where I feel most free. Actually, is when I'm working in theater. For some reason, it seems to come easier to me than film and TV. I don't always know what I'm doing. Sometimes I feel like I can't act when I'm on camera, but then on stage it just comes with this. It just feels so much more natural. So yes, I would love to do theater.
Thank you for watching The Sarah Scoop Show. Head to sarahscoop.com for more.